I just want your happiness. I want what's good for you. And sometimes we have to deny our immediate desires in order to have a later happiness that's more fulfilling. Welcome to God Nod. My name is Casey, and today I'm going to be talking about living with your boyfriend. Now, I'm talking about this because it's very hard to find couples that aren't living together, couples that aren't married. And I want to talk about non-religious reasons to not live with your boyfriend, because I think in the end, living with your significant other, that's not your spouse, living with your boyfriend, it's hurting you and it's hurting your relationship in the long run, in the short term and the long run. And so sometimes you might hear religious reasons to not live with your boyfriend, or maybe your parents are like, or your grandparents or people in the community, maybe they might say comments to you about, you shouldn't be living with your boyfriend, you shouldn't be doing this. But maybe there's something part of you that's like, I'm not convicted that it's bad, and I think it's the best for us, and it's fun, and it's good, and so I'm here. And so I just want to have a real and honest conversation. Obviously, it's not a real conversation because we can't talk face to face, but I would love to engage in this kind of conversation. Please leave your comments and your feedback in the comment section. I would love to really get people talking about this topic because I think it is really important, and I want what's best for you, and I want happiness for you. And I really believe that, by living with your boyfriend, it's hurting you and your relationship in the short term and long term. So we're going to be talking about today non-religious reasons why you shouldn't live with your boyfriend. Okay, I'm going to break this video up into two parts. The first part is I'm going to talk about, more numbers, 3 ways it is hurting your relationship. And then the second part, I'm going to talk about statistics of studies that were done. So let's get into the first part, which is how it's harming your relationship. So first of all, I just want to ask you a question. How do you view marriage? Do you view marriage as lifelong? Do you give room to divorce? And if you do give room to divorce, do you want that to happen? Do you want to decrease the chances of that happening? And I ask this because one of the foremost ways that living with your boyfriend can hurt your relationship is that you are rehearsing distrust. That's right, you are rehearsing distrust. And what I mean by that is when you start living with your boyfriend, when you move in and you start putting all your things together, there's only a half commitment because you can leave at any time. There's no vows keeping you together. There's no legal paperwork keeping you together. There's nothing keeping you together other than your very word of saying, I'm dating you. And that gives you room to leave whenever you want. Now, we as humans, we are body and soul, and how we live, it really matters. And so whenever we are, putting ourselves in a situation, let's say, a couple that's living together, but they're not married, and they're just living life together, but they didn't get married, they don't have those vows, they have nothing formal keeping them together for life, it leaves room for that person to leave. Now, let's say you do end up getting married. That mindset still carries into your marriage because you still have something in the back of your mind saying I can still leave if I want to. Whereas if you wait to move in until you're married, once you move in, that there's no room to leave, that you are with this person for life. You vowed your life to this person. And so there's no room to leave when you're married, which is amazing. Because you found this person that you want to live your entire life with. And so by living together before marriage, you are making a half commitment, and half commitment is no commitment. And so I say that kind of heavily, that you are rehearsing distrust, but in the end, it really is what it is. I'm just calling it as it is because you are every single day that you're living with your significant other, you are just rehearsing distrust. And we all know that trust is the very foundation of any relationship. And so that's the first reason, first way that it can harm your relationship. The second way is that it makes your relationship out to be utilitarian. A lot of times when I ask people why they decided to move in together, they might say, oh, we're saving money, or it's just easy, or we got to make sure we're compatible, all of those things. But the thing is, if those are the reasons for moving in together, that means that you are viewing your relationship in a utilitarian way. For those who don't know what that means you are using each other, to put it simply. There are certain places that's very expensive to live. Well, there's ways to be creative. You can find people in community, find some girls to live with, get the guy to find some friends to live with. So the saving money part, it's not worth hurting your relationship. We got to make sure we're compatible. Well, if you're marrying someone because they make good chicken, or they know how to make not dry chicken, then you're marrying them for the wrong reason. The little things of living together, those are things that you can learn and you figure out once you're married and once you're together, because your relationship is based on something deeper, not just like, are we going to be good roommates? Because that's totally not what marriage is. And that there's something in marriage, that's something that's beautiful, is, you take two people from different families, different backgrounds, and you put them together, and there's going to be sacrifice. There's going to be things that you're going to have to give up, and that's part of growing in virtue. And so that's the second way you are hurting your relationship, is you're viewing your relationship as a relationship of using each other versus true love, of sacrificial love. The third and final reason, or non-religious reason, why it's harming your relationship is it's very hard to live chastely. There might be some couples out there who are living together and who are striving to live a chaste life, but it's very, very, very imprudent and scandalous because, when you're sleeping in the same bed together, that's just huge temptation. And so as a couple, you want to strive to live chastely. And because this is a secular video, I want to give secular reasons for living chastely as well. Okay. During the sexual intercourse, you have hormones involved. You have oxytocin and you have vasopressin being released during sex. And the oxytocin is the hormone that's mostly released in women during sexual intercourse. Oxytocin is the same hormone that is released during breastfeeding and during childbirth. It is the same hormone that it bonds the child, the baby, with the mom. That is the hormone that you are bonding yourself with your boyfriend. Okay, and then the vasopressin is what's mostly released, the hormone that's mostly released in men. And so during the sexual intercourse, when the vasopressin is released during men, vasopressin, it's a sort of bonding hormone, but it mostly gives the sense of responsibility to the guy. He takes on this responsibility feeling for the woman and for the relationship, which is why, because we live in a fallen world where sin affects us, which is why if you have sex outside of marriage and there's a risk of pregnancy, why the guy freaks out, because he feels responsible, as he should. But that vasopressin hormone actually plays a huge effect into that, which is why a lot of men run or even get scared that it's a possibility, is because they feel this deep, deep sense of responsibility. Hormones are involved in sex. If you didn't know that, we have oxytocin and vasopressin. Now, the way our bodies are made, the way what the science tells us actually points to what God tells us. Like, God teaches us to only have sex in marriage and to marry one person, to not get divorced, to stay with one person for your life. And there's a reason for that. And it's because if you look at the science behind sex, the bonding chemicals, the bonding hormones behind sex, it bonds you to that person so much that if you start sleeping with other people, your oxytocin levels start to go down and it decreases your ability to bond with your partner, which is why if you have sex with more partners, the easier it is just to move on and forget about the person. It's sad, but it's because the hormones are the hormones show us that this is what happens. And so if this is the life that you choose to live of sleeping around, just the secular reasons alone, you are decreasing your oxytocin levels, and you are teaching yourself to not bond with a partner, which then makes, like, if you ever want to get married and live a very happy and fulfilling life with one man, you're decreasing your ability to be able to bond with your husband, your future husband. Now, the good news is that if you remain chaste, you can build up your hormone levels back up, and you can teach yourself how to bond with your partner. And so there's the hope in that. There's the good news in that. And what's so cool about these hormones and these bonding chemicals, like the reason why God gave these hormones to us in the first place is if you have vowed your life to someone, and let's say, you're going through some tough times and you have sexual intercourse, those hormones and that sexual act is able to bond and strengthen your relationship, even if there's not total agreement emotionally or whatever's going on. It's able to strengthen and keep the marriage alive even when the marriage is going through tough times. So it's super beautiful. It's super amazing that God gave us the sexual act in order to bring forth new life, but then also to bond the couple. Now, another secular reason to be chaste is because when you have sexual intercourse with someone and your hormones are going crazy and you're bonding with that person, it clouds your judgment so much on the actual person. And this is where I think a lot of times it can be scary, because if you're having sex outside of marriage with your boyfriend, you are clouding your judgment. If you imagine your brain and you imagine this huge cloud coming over your brain, and it's like covering like 60% of your brain, 70% of your brain, maybe even more. And now you're faced with the question of, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? Now we have to come to a decision of, do I want to marry this person? But your mind is clouded because of the bonding that has happened with this person. So now it's hard to differentiate the virtues and the values that this man has versus, like, do I love him because, we've given our bodies to each other? And so, it's way better, like, to decide who you're going to marry is one of the biggest questions in your entire life. It is huge. Especially if you want to live out your marriage well, of, I want to marry you and there's no room for divorce, and we're going to vow to spend the rest of our lives together. Like, if that's truly the marriage that you want, then you want to have a very clear mind about that decision. And so when you have sex outside of marriage with your boyfriend, you are clouding your mind and your judgment so much that it's so hard to discern, do I actually want to spend the rest of my life with this person? So those are just some secular reasons to live a chaste life. There are so many more benefits to living a chaste life, to saving sex for marriage. But I just wanted to give a little bit. Basically, science backs up scripture when God says, like, be chaste and wait for marriage. And so all that being said is, there are these non-religious reasons why one should not live with your boyfriend. And I say should because there is a right and a wrong to life, and there is a I should or I should not. And so if you are considering living with your boyfriend, or if you feel pressure to, I just want to give you the freedom that you don't have to, even if all your friends are, and that there are greater reasons to not live with your boyfriend, and it's going to end up harming your relationship and yourself in the long run. So those are just some of the reasons that it is harming your relationship, whether that be because it clouds your judgment, it's hard to live chastely, it makes your relationship out to be a relationship of use and not self-sacrificial love, and rehearsing distrust. Now, I do want to say, with the hard to live chastely. You know, I had a friend who said, you know, like, I'm engaged, I'm living with my boyfriend, but his brother is also living with us. You know, is it fine if we are in different rooms, but we're in the same house, but then we also have someone else living there, so there's like accountability? And I was just like, okay, this is better than living together and sleeping in the same bed. However, there are still concerns, like this isn't ideal because, one, it can still be hard to live chastely. What if the brother is away or on a trip or just gone for the night? You know, it's the accountability can be flaky there. Secondly, is there's room for scandal. If someone knows that you are living in the same house, people can assume things, and assume things pretty well that, you know, because very few couples decide to live chastely, people are going to assume that you're not. And so there's room for scandal. And so I just want to make a point there that now I don't know their full situation and what all was happening, but definitely not ideal. And in some levels, it can be sinful. Now I want to get into some studies that have been done that I think really make a difference on this topic. The studies that I'm about to share, I really only have like 5 and then like 3 points under the 5 points to share about what these studies have conveyed. But these studies are taken from the American Sociological Review, Journals on Marriage, Psychiatric Disorders in America, and USA Today. So those are, if you Google any of these around this topic of living with your partner, you'll find the studies. I can also link them in the video. But here's the results of what they have. 1, there has been no positive contribution to marriage found. So from the studies that they have done, interviewing people of living together, of not living together, all of this stuff, they have found zero positive contribution to the future marriage. 0. Does that not like what? You would think that maybe, you know, practicing something or learning about each other's lives through living together would add something, but no. The studies have shown absolutely 0 positive contribution for the future marriage. Second, most of the couples that live together don't get married, and the ones that did get married, they had an 80% chance higher of getting a divorce. And that is compared to those who don't live together before marriage. Okay, I don't know if that just blows your mind, but it blows my mind that many of them don't get married, and then of the ones that do get married, they have an 80% divorce rate. That is huge, okay? So just like this study here, it points back to my first point of rehearsing distrust. Because if you are living with your boyfriend and you're living life, but you don't have that full commitment yet, and you're like, okay, I can still leave if I want to, like you are rehearsing distrust, and of course that carries into marriage. And the study shows that literally you have an 80% chance higher of divorce, and it adds up. Third point is those who live together have greater marital conflict and poorer communication, thus having more visits to marriage counselors. So, if you want to decrease your chances of marital conflict and have greater communication in marriage, don't live together. 4, the couples who live together are less sexually satisfied than those who wait for marriage. Interesting little fact there. You can think about that one. So if you want to be sexually satisfied, if you want to increase those chances, don't live with your boyfriend. And then the 5th study that was done, which I thought was super interesting, it was a whole study done on the effects of women when they live with their boyfriend. Now these are pretty tough to hear, so just prepare yourself. Okay, the 3 effects that it has on women living together with your significant other is 1, they are more than 3 times as likely to cheat on their husbands. This is just what the study shows. 2, they are 62 times more likely to be assaulted by their partner. 62 times more likely. And then the third result was that they are 3 times as likely to be depressed as married women. Okay, kind of some heavy stuff there. But this is what the studies are showing, and I think these are important things for us to know, especially as young women who are trying to figure out our life, and you know, we want what's best. We want a happy life, and we want to get married to an amazing guy. And so these are just some things for you to consider, to really think about before you decide to move in with your boyfriend. And I just want to say, if you have already moved in with your boyfriend, it is not too late to find another living arrangement and to change things. Yeah, it's not too late. And you know, I just wanna tell you that it's not too late, and that, you know, if you have made that decision, I understand, because there's a lot of social pressure. You can see, like, on the surface level, a lot of the pros for living together, but I just want to give you an out, that if you are living with your boyfriend right now, that you don't have to, and that even if you like it and it's fun, I just want to encourage you, please think about these things for your future happiness, for your future marriage. Not saying that there's no hope if you stay living together. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that these studies show that there's something to it, and that, it's just better to not live with your boyfriend, because marriage is that's what marriage is. It's a whole sharing of life. And you know, what a witness you can be if you decide to not live with your boyfriend before marriage, because so many people, I mean, the majority, I think, of Americans today live with their significant other if they've been dating longer than like 5 months. So what a witness you can be if you decide to not live with your boyfriend. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard in our culture, but I just want to know that, I just want you to know that I support you, and that if you need encouragement, I'm here. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I would love to start conversation up on this topic, because again, I don't think it's talked about enough. And I ultimately just want your happiness. I want what's good for you. And sometimes we have to deny our immediate desires in order to have a later happiness that's more fulfilling. So I hope this has been helpful for you. And please share this to any young woman or man who you think is considering maybe living with their significant other. Please know of my prayers, and God bless.